Alright, students, in this video I'm going to go over how to solve absolute value equations. These are the steps that you want to follow. Try to go in that order. So the first step is that you want to isolate the absolute value expression. That is the expression that has those two lines next to them. You cannot proceed separating the two equations like you did over here previously. You need to first make sure you have the absolute value expression by itself. If the absolute value equation equals a positive number, you're going to go to step 2, which is right here. If the absolute value equation equals a negative, you need to understand that there is no solution. An absolute value can never equal a negative number. Your absolute value should always be positive. Let's proceed with this example following the steps. So the first step is making sure that the absolute value is isolated on the left side of this equal sign. Notice that there's nothing other than that expression. Notice the next example does have a -2 in the front of those absolute values, so you do need to isolate this one first. Then you have this third example where it has the absolute value, but then there's a -5 and a +2, so that needs to be moved or removed mathematically before proceeding to step 2. So the first one here is already like that. So the step says split the equation into two separate equations without the absolute value symbol, and each equation should be equal to some quantity, so it equals that. The quantity should be positive on one equation and negative on the other. So let's see. We have absolute value of 6x minus 8 equals 10. So we're going to have 6x minus 8 equals 10. And we're going to have 6x minus 8 equals -10. So similar to yesterday, you just write that equation equals that number. But then you also write that equation, that expression equals the negative version of that number. All right, so to solve this, we are going to add 8 on both sides. 6x equals 18. As you solve this one, you might also want to be solving this one because they're the same steps, sort of. So you do want to add 8, but the answers you're getting are different. So it's -10 plus 8, so that will result in -2. Then the last step here is to divide by 6. X will equal whatever 18 divided by 6 is, which is 3. And then over here, we're going to divide by 6. And on this side, we're going to end up with a fraction, because 2 divided by 6 is -1/3. If for some reason you feel like those answers are not correct, you can always use your calculator and check. So what you're doing is you are substituting this x value that you calculated in there. So we can write absolute value, 6 parentheses 3 minus 8, get out of the absolute value, equals 10. So that is true. And then if we're going to use the same equation, but now instead of 3, you're going to have -1/3. So it's just a matter of typing this carefully. So notice that I have 6 times x, so 6 times -1/3 with this value right here. Minus 8 equals 10. So both of them are true. That means both of these answers are correct. Okay, let's try the next one. So this one, like I said, is not isolated. It has a -2 in the front. That -2 is a coefficient. So it's like saying -2 times the absolute value of 4 minus 8x. And that means that in order to isolate the absolute value, we need to get rid of that multiplication times -2. So we're dividing by -2 on both sides. And now we're going to have absolute value of 4 minus 8x equals negative 6, because 12 divided by negative 2 is negative 6. And then from here is where this equation will now proceed to two different equations. 4 minus 8x equals negative 6, and 4 minus 8x equals positive 6. Actually, I just realized this is wrong. We cannot have an absolute value that equals a negative. So nope, we cannot rewrite it because it equals a negative. An absolute value cannot equal a negative, therefore there's no solution. So as you go through this, keep track of that one rule. You cannot have it equal to a negative. Okay, let's do the next one. We have absolute value right here, but we also have the negative 5 in the front times that absolute value. And then you're adding a 2. So if we replace, or if we pretend like this is an x, for example, it would look like this. Again, where this x is representing that absolute value. So this is just like solving an equation. That 2 needs to go first. So minus 2. And then now we have negative 5. I'm just going to keep drawing like a box to keep track of it. Equals negative 75. And then we divide by negative 5. So this box equals, I believe it's 15. I'm just going to double check. So 75 divided by 5, yeah, 15. So now that we isolated the box, now we can rewrite it as absolute value of 5x minus 5 equals 15. And then now this equation will be split into two separate ones. 5x minus 5 equals positive 15, and 5x minus 5 equals negative 15. So then we solve. We add 5 to both sides, and 5x equals 20. We add 5 to both sides. 5x equals negative 10. Then we divide by 5. X equals 4. And divide by 5. X equals negative 2. So these are, again, the two answers we got, and we can always plug in and check. So I'm going to type this whole equation, substituting the x with the x values we got. So it's negative 5, absolute value of 5 times one of our answers, which was 4. And then close the parentheses, minus 5. Get out of the absolute value, plus 2 equals negative 73. And that's true. So then now let's type it again and replace that 4 with a negative 2. So parentheses, negative 2. And it's true as well. So this confirms that plugging in these two values in here are the correct solutions for this equation. Okay, I hope these 3 examples helped you understand how to solve absolute value equations.